it all in. Then came the fresh air in the garden, a, a fervent hand-clasp with the doctor, a run across the lawn, a welcoming whinny from Destrier, and so King Caspian the 10th left the castle of his fathers. Looking back, he saw fireworks going up to celebrate the birth of the new prince. All night he rode southward, choosing byways and bridle paths through woods as long as he was in the country that he knew, but afterward he kept to the high road. Destrier was as excited at his master as this unusual journey, and Caspian, though tears had come into his eyes at saying goodbye to Dr. Cornelius, felt brave, and in a way happy, to think that he was King Caspian riding to seek adventures, with his sword in his left hip and Queen Susan's magic horn in his right. But when day came, with a sprinkle of rain, and he looked about him and saw...
Welcome to a world of mystery!
Damn Pines.
The tax collector! You found me!
Thank you for the host. I can't see it right now, though. He looked about him and saw on every side unknown woods, wild heaths, and blue mountains. He thought how large and strange the world was, and felt frightened and small. As soon as it was full daylight, he left the road and found an open, grassy place amid a wood where he could rest. He took off Destrier's bridle and let him graze, ate some cold chicken, and drank a little wine, and presently fell asleep. It was late afternoon when he awoke. He ate a morsel and continued his journey, still southward by many unfrequented lanes. He was now in a land of hills, going up and down, but always more up than down. From every ridge he could see the mountains growing bigger and blacker ahead. As the evening closed in, he was riding their lower slopes. The wind rose. Soon rain fell in torrents. Destrier became uneasy. There was thunder in the air, and now they entered a dark and seemingly endless pine forest, and all the stories Caspian ever heard of trees being unfriendly to man crowded into his mind. He remembered that he was, after all, a Talmarine, one of the race who cut down trees whenever they could, and were at war with all wild things. And though he himself might be unlike other Talmarines, the trees could not be expected to know this. Nor did they. The wind became a tempest, the woods roared and creaked all round him. Then came a crash. A tree fell right across the road just behind him. "Quiet, Destrier, quiet," said Caspian, patting his horse's neck. But he was trembling himself, and knew that he had escaped death by an inch. Lightning flash and a great crack of thunder seemed to break the sky in two, just overhead. Destrier bolted in good earnest. Caspian was a good rider, but he had not the strength to hold him back. He kept his seat, but he knew that his life hung by a thread during the wild career that followed. Tree after tree rose up before them in the dusk, and was only just avoided, then almost too suddenly to hurt. And yet it did hurt him too. Something struck Caspian on the forehead, and he knew no more. When he came to himself, he was lying in a firelit place, and with bruised limbs and a bad headache. Low voices were speaking close at hand. "And now," said one, "before it wakes up, we must decide what to do with it." "Kill it," said another. "We can't let it live. It would betray us." "We ought to have killed it at once, or else let it alone," said a third voice. "We can't kill it now, not after we've taken it in and bandaged its head and all. It would be murdering a guest." "Gentlemen," said Caspian in a feeble voice, "whatever you do to me, I hope you will be kind to my poor horse." "Your horse has taken flight before we found you," said the first voice, a curiously husky, earthly voice, as Caspian now noticed. Yeah, I totally got that down. Now don't let it talk you round with its pretty words," said the second voice. "I still say—" "Horns and halibuts!" exclaimed the third voice. "Of course we're not going to murder it. For shame, Knickerbrick. What do you say, Truffle Hunter? What shall we do with it?" "I shall give it a drink," said the first voice, presumably Truffle Hunter's. A dark shape approached the bed. Caspian felt an arm slip gently up under his shoulders. If it was exactly an arm, the shape somehow seemed wrong. The face that bent toward him seemed wrong too. He got the impression that it was a very hairy and very long-nosed, and there were odd white patches on each side of it. It was a mask of some sort, thought Caspian, or perhaps I'm in a fever and imagine it all. A cupful of something sweet and hot was set to his lips, and he drank. At that moment, one of the others poked the fire. A blaze sprang up, and Caspian almost screamed with the shock at the sudden light revealed the face that was looking into his own. It was not a man's face, but a badger's. Through larger and friendlier and more intelligent than the face of any badger he had seen before. And it had certainly been talking. He saw, too, that he was on the bed of heather in a cave by a fire. Excuse me. By the fire sat two little bearded men, so much wilder and shorter and hairier and thicker than Dr. Cornelius that he knew them at once for real dwarfs, ancient dwarfs, with not a drop of human blood in their veins, and Caspian knew that he had found the old Narnians at last. Then his head began to swim again. In the next few days he'd learned to know them by names. The badger was called Truffle Hunter. He was the oldest and kindest of the three. The dwarf who wanted to kill Caspian was a sour black dwarf, that is, his hair and beard were black and thick and hard like horsehair. His friend was Knickerbrick. The other dwarf was a red dwarf, with hair rather like a fox's, and he was called Trumpkin. And now, said Knickerbrick on the first evening, when Caspian was well enough to sit up and talk, we still have to decide what to do with this human. You two think you've done it a great kindness by not letting me kill it, but I suppose the upshot is we have to keep it a prisoner for life. I'm certainly not going to let it go alive, to go back to its own kind and betray us all. Bulbs and bolsters, Knickerbrick, said Trumpkin. Why need you talk so unhandsomely? It isn't the creature's fault that it bashed its head against the tree outside our hole, and I don't think it looks like a traitor. I say, said Caspian, you haven't yet found out whether I want to go back. I don't. I want to stay with you, if you'll let me. I've been looking for people like you all my life. That's a likely story, growled Knickerbrick. You're a Telmarine and a human, aren't you? Of course you want to go back to your own kind. Well, even if I did, I couldn't, said Caspian. I was flying for my life when I had my accident. The king wants to kill me. If you killed me, you'd done the very thing to please him. Well now, said Truffle Hunter, you don't say so. Eh? Said Trumpkin. What's that? What have you been doing, human, to fall foul of mirrors at your age? He's my uncle, began Caspian, when Knickerbrick jumped up with his hand on his dagger. There you are, he cried, not only a Telmarine, but close kin and heir to the greatest enemy, to our greatest enemy. Are you still mad enough to let this creature live? He would have stabbed Caspian then and there if the badger and Trumpkin had not gotten in his way and forced him back to his seat and held him down. Now, once and for all, Knickerbrick, said Trumpkin, will you contain yourself, or must Truffle Hunter and I sit on your head? Knickerbrick sulkily promised to behave, and the other two asked Caspian to tell his whole story. When he had done so, there was a moment's silence. This is the queerest thing I've ever heard, said Trumpkin. I like it, said Knickerbrick. I didn't know there was stories about us still told among humans. The less they know about us, the better. That old nurse, now, she'd better have held her tongue, and it's all mixed up with that tutor, a renegade dwarf. I hate him. I hate him worse than the humans. You mark my word. No good'll come of this. Don't you go talking about things you don't understand, Knickerbrick, said Truffle Hunter. You dwarfs are as forgetful and changeable as the humans themselves. I'm a beast, I am, and a badger, what's more. We don't change. We hold on. I say great good will come of it. This is the true king of Narnia we've got here. A true king, coming back to true Narnia, and we beasts remember, even if dwarfs forget, that Narnia was never right except when a son of Adam was king. Whistles and whirligigs, Truffle Hunter, said Trumpkin. You don't mean you want to give the country to humans? I said nothing about that, answered the badger. It's not men's country. Who should know that better than me? But it's a country for a man to be king of. We badgers have long enough memories to know that. Why, bless us all, wasn't the High King Peter a man? Do you believe all those old stories? Asked Trumpkin. I tell you, we don't change, we beasts, said Truffle Hunter. We don't forget. I believe in the High King Peter and the rest that reigned at Cair-vette as firmly as I believe in Aslan himself. As firmly as that, I dare say, said Trumpkin. But who believes in Aslan nowadays? I do, said Caspian, and if I hadn't believed in him before, I would now. Back there among the humans, the people who laughed at Aslan would have laughed at stories about talking beasts and dwarfs. Sometimes I did wonder if there was really such a person as Aslan, but then sometimes I wondered if they were really people like you. Yet, there you are. That's right, said Truffle Hunter. You're right, King Caspian, and as long as you will be true to old Narnia, you shall be my king, whenever they say long life to your majesty. You make me sick, Badger, growled Knickerbrick. That High King Peter and the rest may have been men, but they were a different sort of men. This is one of the cursed Telmarines. He has hunted beasts for sport. Haven't you now? He added, rounding suddenly on Caspian. Well, to tell you the truth, I have, said Caspian. But they weren't talking beasts. It's all the same thing, said Knickerbrick. No, said Truffle Hunter. You know it isn't. You know very well that the beasts in Narnia nowadays, are different and no more than the poor, dumb, witless creatures you'd find in Kellerman or Telmar. They're smaller, too. They're far more different from us than the half-dwarfs are from you. There was a great deal more talk, but it all ended with agreement that Caspian should stay, and even the promise that, as soon as he was able to go out, he should be taken to see what Trumpkin called the others. For apparently, in these wild parts, all sorts of creatures from the old days of Narnia still lived on in hiding. Boom! End of chapter 5. Hope I'm not too late. Nope, Gary, I just started not too long ago. Happy to say my internet's actually functioning right now, so fingers crossed it'll continue to function. But welcome for joining. Storm, greetings, thanks for being here, if you're still here. I don't know if you are or not. But yes, I actually first showed up on stream and on January 1st of this year. So, what a year it is, right? Hello, Nicole. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you being here. And your chat is sending just fine. Matrio is saying that read a bedtime story by Terry himself. It's true. It's the best way to end the day. I start off the Monday, right? I think, yes. To do a sort of Rob. And then something's wrong. Okay, take your time, man. I hope it's better. Meow. Meow, 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 meow. Yes, we're all blessed with a good night's sleep tonight with Terry's storytelling. Well, I'm glad you think so. Dr. Cornelius. Dude, Terry, now I can do a real fan artist, dude. It's a mystery fan. I mean, I was perfectly happy with the original fan art. You don't need to do an actual one now. Still gotta do some other people's fan art, though. E, what about my fan art? I think these are upside down. That's dumb. There we go. I look forward to seeing all future fan arts. Because they're all pretty fantastic, and I thank you for doing them, Gary. Terry, we lost our nearly 200-day streak. Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost streaks with like everybody that I had streaks with, to be fair. I just wasn't paying too much attention to my phone. I've just been totally out of it for like a week, to be honest. Since like the beginning of the year, really. Aw, 1 billion fan arts for all the love that Ed has from Gary. If I only knew how to do computer stuff to get to that Beanie and YK one day. Truffle Hunter art. Making progress in Breath of the Wild is a myth. I agree with that. I've put like 50 or 60 hours into it, and I've just went to the first dungeon, sort of. But I hope you're enjoying it, E. Those glasses are fabulous. Are those gemstones on the set? No, I don't think so. They're just like little inserts, kind of. I don't know. Not the right word. But I don't have the right word, so inserts is what it's going to be. Making it the right word for me at this right time. Man, it's fine. I stopped in all the streets with everyone, including my sister. Okay. I mean, I'll still gladly Snapchat here and there, but I'm just not paying that much attention to things right now. I lost my streaks as well. Yeah. Same, lost streaks. Streaks aren't important in the least. If you want to send me something. And more than likely, I'll try to send you something back. Like I sent... I had a good video of Twix earlier. I said a while ago to look for shrines from the tower, but I can only get the one with the without the paraglider. Yeah, you definitely got to get to them all. I wish you luck. Hey Cass, thanks for being here.